Hey guys, alright, we're going to be changing the oil on the 7-ton today. I did a video on the oil analysis from the sample I took from this truck, and it pretty much said that I did not need to change the oil, but this is kind of the unknown, right? I don't know how many miles are on this oil, and an oil change is expensive on these trucks, but replacing the motor's a lot more money, so I'm all out of breath because I've been fighting this thing for the last half hour. This filter's like 5.5 inch diameter, and I don't normally mess with filters that are this big. I've got one of these strap wrenches, but it only does like probably a 4.5 inch filter. So here's kind of the setup, and just going back to the oil change. I just got back from about a 500-mile trip, and for about 250 those miles, I was towing a 13,000-pound trailer with a 22,000-pound truck on it. So it was about like 35,000-pound trailer on a 30,000-pound truck. So 65,000 pounds. And there was a hill we hit about a 6% grade, and I was foot to the floor for over 20 minutes. So we were beating on it pretty good, and you probably won't be able to see because of the light, but you can see now. You won't be able to see this mud flaps pretty ripped. I tore that off-roading. You can see the passenger side one is a lot longer. I'm sorry, this is the driver's side. This thing's ripped to here, so we probably ripped a foot off of it, and you might not be able to see, but you can see we hit some rocks, and that's, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. So we were wheeling it pretty hard, and so beating on this thing for 500 miles was quite a bit in my opinion. So it's time to change it. So here's kind of the setup. I tried every trick in the book to get this filter loose, and I don't have a strap wrench big enough, and I don't think a cheap strap wrench would work. So before you attempt this job, get a strap wrench or something that will take a filter off that's up to 5.5 inches. And like I said, I tried every trick in the book. This gets in the way from putting anything underneath it. One of those clamp style oil filter wrenches. So here's what we're left with. This is a pretty big ratchet strap. I've got it wrapped around and locked. The metal hooks are locked around each other. I got it tightened as much as I can, and instinct just tells you to keep pulling, and that will loosen it, right? If you keep pulling this lever. But what that does, that just keeps tightening. It does try to spin the filter, but it also tightens. So what I did is I got this is just like a crowbar, and I got it up in here, and I did all this off camera so I didn't look like an idiot doing this. But now as I start to put pressure on this, the filter starts to turn. So anyway, that's the setup. I'll tell you what, before you start this, make sure you've got all the tools ready. Real easy to think you're just going to jam a screwdriver in here and start to spin, but the second you puncture that, it makes a mess, and there's no going back. Once you mangle that filter up, there's not a lot of room to work up in here. So once you mangle it, that's all over. So, and I'm going to try to set this down and make sure we can still see everything. I normally don't puncture my filters, but this has to hold a couple gallons, so it's going to be pretty heavy, and I don't want to deal with trying to manhandle that thing around. So I took some advice from John and made a little dam so that when I pop this, it runs right down right into my filter. So I don't think any of this is going to go smooth because, like I said, I've been fighting this for a while. All right. That dam's working pretty good. And I've got, laying on cardboard, this concrete's freezing cold, and I don't want to be laying on it. Plus this will help with some of the mess. So that will take quite a while to drain. And you can see, I mean, it's time. That filter, that oil's pretty black regardless of what the oil analysis said. So who knows how long that's going to take. The other reason I punctured that filter is these lines run up pretty high. So you also probably have to drain these lines. And so who knows how much is going to come out. I guess we'll find out. But it's cold out, and that will take quite a while to drain. So I'll come back when it's all done. Thanks. All right, hard to see, but that's draining pretty good. So while that's draining, I'm going to pre-fill the new oil filter. And I know there's a lot of debate on, I don't know if there's a lot of debate, there's some debate on pre-filling a filter because as you pour oil into the center, it's unfiltered because the dirty oil comes in the side, or the outside, and the clean oil comes through here. I pre-fill mine. I can't imagine how long that's going to take for the oil pump to fill this up while the engine's dry, running without oil pressure for that long. So anyway, can you see? Yeah, this is, does that look familiar? 5-ton hub nut wrench. So we're going to use that to set it up. I'm going to be filling this with Delvac, but I've got some of this power-driven diesel. I read some reviews on it and watched their video. It's supposed to have more ZDDP and all that stuff than conventional oil. This is not recommended for trucks with any exhaust filters or anything, but obviously these trucks don't have any. So. All right, so it's still draining, but it's almost empty. So now again, I'm going to take the crowbar on the back side here. This thing's been, I'm probably been at this for 45 minutes now. There we go. Yeah, oh, you can hear all kinds of paint up there cracking. Oh man. Now the problem is you can't see it, but back here, the strap, the metal hook is bottomed out against this, so I'm going to have to take this off now. Try not to get this soaked in oil. Oh, come on. Oh, damn it. It's still on there pretty good. Let's see if this works. And I off camera, I pounded this hole bigger because to get it to drain a little faster. Yeah, see, you don't think you can just get in here and with a screwdriver and it's going to be easy. I was going to cut this filter open, but not now. The old cheater bar out. So the screwdriver is now bottomed out in the media. There we go. Damn, it's still on there. All right, what I'm going to do for now, I'm going to take some more of this tape and try to seal that hole so it's just not pouring oil everywhere. Actually, I should do pretty good with that screwdriver in there, but I got to take it out at some point. Oh, nope. All right, there we go. So, let's see. So the screwdriver's sealing the hole. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you can't be able to see that, but that tape's working pretty good. So now I'm not able to grip it all that well, but can you see that in the camera? There's a big flat here now because of the ratchet strap. Oh, there you go. Either use a really good screwdriver that's not going to bend or a crappy one that you don't care about. Ah, now the fun part. This is going to still leak everywhere probably. I wish they wrote the service date or hours or miles or something on this filter, but they don't. There we go, see? Look at that, clean as can be. Oh, there's still quite a bit in that filter. So I got the mounting flange all cleaned up. The new filter, it only took a gallon to fill. So I don't know if it's airlocked or if there's so much filter media in there that it takes up a lot of the interior space, but all right, don't spill it. Yeah, see, this is heavy. This would be difficult to try to get down full when you're taking the old one out, and as it's pouring oil all over you. So I think puncturing is the way to go. My hands are all dirty. All right. So now we'll write the hours and the miles. So this has got 1,250 hour and 11,700 miles, and it is 2/20/20. All right, well, at least we know now when the oil's been changed, or I guess the filter so far. I don't know if you can see up there. So these have, nah, you won't be able to see it. These have a sensor front, oil inlet and oil out. And so that tells you the pressure delta between the filter. And so there's a dummy light on the dash that says lube filter. And I'm assuming that means it knows when the filter's clogged because the pressure differential between the inlet and the outlet are too high. So anyway, all right, we'll go to the oil pan next. All right, well, that took me a minute. I was trying to find the drain plug, and because of the independent suspension, they've got to stuff the engine way up in there. So trying to find the drain bolt, and there's nothing real obvious. I pull out the, not the TM, but the operator's manual, and here it is. think there's 4 total. You can just kind of pick either one. They're at the same elevation, so I don't think it matters which one we pick. But this, whoever designed this is cruel, because if I can get a light in there, well, you might not be able to see. Right where that center of the screen is where the drain bolt is, and I had to put of course a breaker bar on there, and now it's hand tight, so we'll do it. We'll just be able to loosen it by hand, but that is just evil to put that. We ever gonna be able? Yeah, you can kind of see it. Where am I at? Right there. So it's 100% gonna drip down. So it's, yeah, right there. It's 100% gonna drip all over this pitman arm. The other side's no better. You've got the other pitman arm on that side, so that is just going to be an absolute mess of. I got 2 buckets and 2 drain pans under here because 9 gallons. You know, the system holds about 10, but that filter holds a full gallon, so this is going to be an absolute mess. So you hear me screaming, that's what it is. Oh my gosh. You know what I might do is, you're coming along for the ride, this is the first time for me too, is loosen this. If it just starts pouring out, I can always put the plug back in. 9 gallons doing it this way. And of course my drain pan's only like a 5-gallon capacity. Oh, yeah, of course. What a mess. Well, at least you can kind of slowly pull the plug out. Actually, it made a mess all over the cardboard, but if you pull the plug out slow enough, so I'm holding the plug probably a 1/2 inch away from the threads to kind of regulate the flow. And what I'll do is I'll wait for this pan to fill, I'll put the plug back in. Yeah, I mean, this oil, it's funny, on the dipstick, when it's real thin, it doesn't look that bad. In here, maybe it's just a light, but it's pretty dark, so I'm glad we're changing it. Oh yeah, it's all over the tie rod end. Or is that a tie rod? What is that called? It goes from pitman arm to pitman arm. Drag link? I don't know. Yeah, oops. Now we're flowing. Now it's an absolute mess. Well, put some carpet down or do it outside or something, because it's dripping everywhere. All right, I'm gonna put the plug back in now. Oh, I can't get it back in. Oh, this sucks. There we go. Well, those steering arms won't rust. That's the beauty of doing this when the oil's cold, is it's not pouring out because it's thin. I'll let that drain. Grab my magical white cup, get a sample. Yeah, I probably could have waited, but that's all right. Look at the size of this big old thing. So it's actually got a magnet. It's got a magnet. That's good, but now that makes me want to pull the other ones and wipe the magnet. Damn it. So that's a half drive. Can't see if this thing's rusty. So there's a O-ring, not just floating around. It's got an O-ring groove incorporated into the nut. So I wiped the magnet. It's actually pretty clean, although this is filtered oil, so it should be clean. There shouldn't be much on it. But now I'm gonna I want to pull all 4 drain bolts. And I'm not gonna bore you with all that, but I'll pause this here and then we'll fill it up. All right, so I've got that drain bolt all cleaned up and reinstalled, and I put a little red paint on it to make sure. I can always just come down and visually check to make sure it hasn't backed out. So that's done, cleaned up that linkage arm. So there are 4 of these drain bolts, but 2 of them are inaccessible. They're buried way back in there against the frame rail, so you can't get to them. There is another accessible one right there in the center of the screen, right there. I'm not going to pull it. I think cleaning off that one is good. What I'm going to do, the next oil change, which will probably be in a year or 2, one of the reasons I put the red paint on there is I won't remember in 2 years which one I pulled. So that one I know, that's a reminder I've pulled that one. The next time I change the oil, I'll pull that one in the center of the screen and clean the magnet off there. So looks like we're all wrapped up here. Anyone else got this terminated wire with a little hoop on it near their filter? It's got a clamp which could go right in that bolt hole. So I'll probably run this down and throw a bolt in it like that, so it's kind of tucked up out of the way. Kind of I don't know what that would have gone to, but I don't know. Also got the 2 over here by the transfer case. Those look like kind of relay ends, but I wonder if that's for to turn the PTO on or something. The only other mystery one I have is up here by the steering box. I think I made that was in one of my other videos. It's a 2-wire. It's labeled C13. I'm waiting for the TMs to come out so I can figure out what that is, because there's not even a cap on it. So that plugged into something, so that's over on the driver's side near the steering box up there. It could go all the way up to the engine. There's enough slack there. So anyway, if you guys are bored and are roaming around down under your truck and see that, let me know what it is. All right, so time to fill up the oil. So I pulled out the fill cap, put a funnel in. This funnel was originally a lot longer, but I cut it real stubby so that the hole is a lot bigger to flow. And then, yeah, so this, I just had this delivered, but it's just Delvac 1300 mobile. So it was a pretty good deal. So 2 tips. One, clean off the top. As these buckets sit around, they'll collect a bunch of dirt and debris on top, and there's no sense in dumping in a bunch of dust into your brand new oil change. So that's one tip. The other one is, if you don't use 5-gallon buckets a lot, if you can, it's always better to keep the pour spout on the top. If you flip it around and put the pour spout on the bottom, it'll airlock and just glug. So and eat your Wheaties, because holding this bucket up for a while is not going to be fun. All right, well, I'm not going to bore you with pouring the other bucket in, but I'll probably, figure it holds almost 10 gallons. So I'll put one bucket in and then probably only 3/4 of the other bucket, and then fire the truck up, check the oil level. Anyway, that's about a wrap for the oil change. We're right at like 3 hours in, so after fighting with that filter for the whole time. So hope that helps somebody. Thanks.